go.
Yep.
Here we go. Hello, everybody. Welcome to today's episode of Trade the Chain. It is Monday, June 7th, and the four of us are back together after quite the weekend and week prior and everything else, and we're all still live. We made it. I almost feel like it's actually, I should get a t-shirt for us that says we survived Bitcoin 2021.
Oh my God, right? All those people. I got anxiety from being around that many people for the first time in like a year and a half. And then when we went to one of the after events in a bar, I remember I looked at you, I turned around, I was like, this is the first time I've been in a bar in a year and a half. This feels so weird.
It
right?
is
like
weird.
It was bizarre.
Yeah. It was almost scary. It was almost like I wasn't used to people anymore.
Exactly.
The thing that was probably most outstanding was the fact that, you know, you shake hands with like 400 or 500 people and no one's wearing a mask whatsoever. It almost felt like quarantine had never happened. I mean, the entire festival was maskless, which is pretty interesting.
Which from a mental standpoint felt good, you know, being vaccinated and all. You know,
Yep.
I definitely wouldn't have done that if I wasn't vaccinated. So, but
No, absolutely not. I'm waiting to see if anyone gets COVID though, like in 2 weeks, right? Like if this is like a non-issue or if it's like a super spreader event, because there were so many people and then there were so many peripheral events. I can't imagine there isn't going to be a spike.
well, you know, it's funny because it was like CJ said a couple of weeks ago when he was doing his Bitcoin analysis, and he goes, you know, listen, I really think we're at a steady edge here because there's literally no one else that can get liquidated in the market, right? Now in Florida, I don't see them having like an influx of cases because I don't think there's anybody in Florida who hasn't given their neighbors COVID. But that's like there's no more opportunity. But that's enough ragging on Florida. We're going to get back chatting about the conference, what we saw in a little bit. Obviously, I'm here with NFT here, Gorman. Our crypto analysts, Monty and CJ from MarketRebellion.com. And guys, let's dump into the big boards, the crypto analysis, and then let's talk about the conference like everybody wants to hear.
Sure, just after we take care of some legal business. This is just a reminder that all content provided by Trade the Chain and Market Rebellion is strictly for educational and informational purposes. This is not investment advice. Absolutely none of it is, and you should not take it as such. Do not listen to us.
Analysts Monty and CJ from MarketRebellion.com. That was me. Sorry. Didn't want to scare anybody.
Good to see that the well-oiled Trade the Chain machine is in mid-season form.
TJ looks scared.
Also, Trade the Chain is brought to you by TradeTheChain.com, a global community of traders of all ages, all abilities, all backgrounds, in 23 time zones, people. 23 of them. They're all using AI-driven sentiment indicators and actionable alerts to help them beat the market, and you can too. Check out TradeTheChain.com for a 14-day trial.
And then moving over to marketrebellion.com/crypto. This is the one-stop shop for crypto trading. Monty and I's community, along with Market Rebellion, and with us, you get trade ideas on a weekly basis with entries, exits, and stop losses, access to our macro portfolio allocations, a pro charting service, and a trading education curriculum that we're continually adding to. So if you'd like to try it for just $1, you can go to marketrebellion.com/crypto. And like I said, you can get that first month for just $1. After that first month, it's $29 a month. But we appreciate that, guys. We also have a mobile app for iOS users. But before we get into markets, let's just check out the Trade the Chain dashboard. Interesting to see this sentiment. You know, we're still neutral. Very parallel kind of to the existing trend. But before we get into the big boards, you got anything, gentlemen, we would like to discuss? I guess the conference, right?
Well, no, we'll get to the conference after the markets. But I do. Go ahead.
We gotta talk about the conference and Cent. We gotta talk about Cent. We cannot end this episode without at least mentioning Cent, because people have been asking me about it all day, all morning, pretty much all weekend since you launched this weekend, guys.
All right.
So before we get started, I just wanted to give a shout out, Alex. You met him as well. I think you did too, CJ and Monty. Jay Rose flew all the way down to Florida from Michigan. Was only in Florida for 8 hours and then flew home the same day to go to the conference to meet us.
Just
so
to meet
at least that's
Ryan.
what he told us, maybe to make us feel better. But I also he said he was there to meet us. So it was. What's that, Alex?
I want to give a shout out to Daryl Lister, who's in the chats too. He came up to us and we met him as well. He introduced himself.
Absolutely. Him, First Coast Crypto, some of the really great members of the community that we got to meet at the conference. There were so many of you, too many to remember. Not to remember, to list. But also, there's one super fan that we'll talk about later that made Alex's and mine, indirectly, my day as well.
All right, CJ, send it.
All right, let's talk about Bitcoin and ETH as well, because I think we got some positive technicals we can go into, specifically with the weekly chart. But before going into the weekly, I want to point something out on the daily that we've been highlighting and following here for quite a while, and that's the ADX. You know, this red line down here, it measures the strength of momentum of a particular trend, whether that be positive momentum or negative momentum. Right now, or where we've been ever since our recent decline, is we've been creating bearish momentum on that ADX. And it seems like for weeks now, I've been saying that we really want to watch for a peak in that price. And as you can see, just last week, you know, it's not completely perfect, but the drop off in diminishing returns and the peak that we've begun to see in the ADX in relation to our upward price action, it's pretty promising. Because if we look at our past instances of peaking in this ADX, we typically don't recreate highs after falling off. Here I guess was a little bit of an exception because we kind of just hovered in that instance. Same thing here. But the fact that we're beginning to drop off in the ADX shows me that we're running out of bearish momentum, at least in the short term, and that a reaction rally is likely primed to possibly 42K or at least that 200 period moving average. Now, I'm going to go to the weekly chart, and I am optimistic in terms of the weekly chart. But the thing I want to highlight before we go there is the fact that we're still underneath this 200 moving average, symbolized by that red line right there. And until we break above that level with strong volume and a further come down in the ADX, we're not out of the woods yet. And there's still a potential that this turns into a bear flag and kind of pushes us downward if we are to break that level. So we still need that confirmation to prove to me that the bulls are willing to step in. But I want to explore some longer term data about the fact that we may have actually bottomed here. So the first thing I want to point to on the weekly chart are a couple of factors. We've stayed within this nice triangle and have kind of used this upward sloping trend line as support all throughout the bull trend. And you can see now price is reaching a TD by 9 on the weekly. So that leads me to believe that we're probably getting close to a bottom. It doesn't have to happen this week or even next week or the week after that. But I'd say due to the TD9 on the DeMark indicator, I'm estimating it's going to be about maybe 3 weeks or 2 weeks at the most to find some type of bottom within this trend. And the reason why I say that is because we've got declining bearish volume. We got that kind of exiting of bearish momentum on the ADX that's been leaving the market. And we're also starting to see just a hint of a bullish crossover on the stochastic oscillator. So I want to compare this level or these charting conditions, I guess, with our previous come down in 2013 and 2014, because we've been drawing this comparison so much lately. Now, the most obvious differentiation, I think, is the fact that, in our current point, we actually fell below the 20 smooth moving average. We never did that on 2013's bull market, but that price is still fighting upward. So it's not really the biggest deal that we've closed below there. I still think It's not the largest factor. I think that's an exception. It doesn't always have to be perfect when it comes to resistance and support levels. The next thing I want to highlight is the fact that we had a very nice bullish crossover, as you can see from that poorly drawn arrow at the bottom right of my screen. That crossover pretty much told you when we were at the bottom, and it allowed you to get in or accumulate when we reach those oversold conditions on the weekly chart. Right now, we're actually reaching a very similar point. It doesn't mean we have to be reaching a perfect bottom. I just think it's a very nice indicator to look at to understand where the trend is at a whole. So I really like this comparison because I think it's very favorable for the bullish case. The only problem is we really haven't seen any bullish momentum or volume come in mass. I think once we break above 42K, that can be kind of a relief point to say, all right, I think a increase to 50K or 55K is now in the cards. Ryan, you had your finger up, kind of like in Archer, what they do.
Yes, exactly. So you're talking about how we may be reaching a bottom and how bullish momentum, the price is slowly trying to fight higher. If you look at the sentiment chart from today, I think this is the right tab. And I can't share screens. I love live.
Here, I'll do it. I got it set. I got it teed up.
Sentiment.
Hang on.
Yeah, I did have it teed up. So you have the 7-day sentiment chart for Bitcoin. And when you look at that, as of today, sentiment has started rebounding. And historically, when we see a rebound in sentiment, we often see a rebound in price right after that. So the conversation and the social momentum around Bitcoin and the outlook appears to be turning positive, even if price hasn't yet caught up. That doesn't mean it will catch up, but it normally does, and that tends to happen maybe a day later. So that's also something worth keeping up tabs on. It jives with what you're saying, CJ, and I think that it could be a signal that we're in for at least a modest recovery in the short term, with a much bigger recovery, as you were saying, down the line.
Speaking to that sentiment, Ryan, one thing I want to bring up, and this could be a factor in short-term price, because I don't know how favorable this announcement is going to be from crypto or for the governments. But check this out, Biden to discuss cryptocurrency role in cyber attacks. Interesting concept. Who knows what news will really come of that and how it may impact price. Just something I wanted to put on the radar.
You know what else is really interesting, guys? And I think it may be a good, indication that what you guys are saying is true and we may be in an interim bottom is some on-chain metrics. So this morning, Glassnode published their weekly report, and I thought there were some really interesting things in this article. So first and foremost are the comparisons with 2017. A lot of people have been comparing this to 2017. I mean, going back to the conference, Max Kaiser was on stage screaming, "We're not selling. We're not selling." And, that is historically kind of a top indicator when someone is that enthusiastically bullish, at least in my experience. But, when you look at the on-chain metrics, the comparisons to 2017 and what we're seeing right now really are just very superficial comparisons. When you look at the actual hard numbers, it's so much different this time around. And we're really, despite the fact that we've pulled back significantly in price from our all-time high, we're putting in important milestones that are bolstering Bitcoin's long-term value. And one of those is the number of addresses with a non-zero balance. So you can see that, during this correction, it's pulled back slightly, but this pullback is nothing compared to what we saw during that peak fall off in 2017, where we saw a slight pullback, but nothing that, is even really worth noting, in my opinion. This number is going to continue to climb as more people jump on board. And one other really important metric that I thought was worth noting was the total supply held by long-term holders. So this was a pretty significant drop off, but it's not too surprising that the long-term holders, often kind of compared to the smart money, are, selling into strength and buying into weakness, right? And when we see this sort of these long-term holders turning back up, that is typically an indication that we're close to the bottom. Back in 2017, obviously we saw a much different thing because this was such a steep run up, and those whales just quickly dumped. And as a result, we are in for an extended period of correction and consolidation. This time is much different. You know, a lot of these long-term holders didn't even sell. And the ones that did are already starting to buy back. So I think that's really worth noting. And I think it ties in with that sentiment that you guys were mentioning. You know, it does look that based with the on-chain metrics and the sentiment data that we perhaps have put in the bottom at around 30K.
Yeah, I think it looks really good. I got to tell you. Go ahead, Brian.
Oh, sorry. I didn't mean to cut you off, Alex. What I'm surprised about is that the announcement from El Salvador, yes, they're not a huge country, but there's still millions of people there. And potentially being able to use Bitcoin as a means of payment in a country with millions of people, many of them unbanked or underbanked, that's such a great testing ground for what people are saying, what many people have long said Bitcoin could be. Once, you know, and for proving the criticisms wrong of you can't buy a cup of coffee, you can't buy a train ticket, you can't pay your taxes, all these things with Bitcoin, why didn't that have more impact on Bitcoin's price? I mean, that just doesn't, I'm confused by that.
It can be asked another way too. Elon Musk's tweet storms haven't had a huge impact on Bitcoin either. So, you know, one of the things talking about, go ahead, Ryan.
I was just gonna say, but Elon Musk, everyone's tired of listening to him. He's a troll. El Salvador has 6.5 million people. That's like, that's the equivalent of like the second or third largest city in America. If Chicago or New York said we're going to institute Bitcoin payments and make it available to our 8 million people or our 7 million people, right? That would be a major news story. I get it. El Salvador isn't
Yeah, 100%. I think it's small steps too, Alex. You know, like this was a big step in the sense that someone had to be the first to do it, right? I've already seen a bunch of other, you know, Latin American countries, American government officials on Twitter, you know, changing their profile picture to laser eyes. I think that this is just the first step, and it may not have, you know, as profound of an initial effect as people may have anticipated, because a lot of it's still up in the air, right? If this could completely, you know, not go well for El Salvador, and, you know, they may abandon this a year down the road from now. But if this goes well, and, you know, it works out favorably for both the government and the citizens, then I can see other countries following suit, and then, you know, that really being factored into price.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it just is contributing to good positive sentiment overall. The fact that the market didn't react, people didn't listen to Elon Musk this time around, just goes to show that even the market can overcome that eventually, right? So yeah, what he did was crappy a little ways back, but now the market's overcoming that. As far as El Salvador, I think it's little steps. And it's a small way forward. I think the fact that the New York Times and their business section this morning covered this conference with such fanfare was huge. You know, there's some idiots in the making, like some guy jumping up on the stage with Dogecoin on his shirt saying buy Doge and all that. But overall, I think the fact that it was so public is going to be good in short term.
Yeah, and like while we're talking about the conference, you know, and sentiment, one thing that I thought was so interesting is that despite the fact that we were in the middle of kind of a market pullback and a bit of consolidation and bearish price action over the last, you know, month or so, people were still so overwhelmingly positive and optimistic at this conference about the future of Bitcoin, and even just like the short-term future. You know, I had some people saying that, you know, a retest of 30, 25K is likely, but the majority of people I spoke to, and, you know, obviously this is kind of tainted info because I was at a Bitcoin conference, but so many people believe that Bitcoin could be at 100K by the end of this year. And the fact that it had pulled back by almost 50% from its previous all-time high didn't really discourage anyone from that. So, you know, I'm in that same camp. I think that this was just a hiccup in the road, and that Bitcoin's, you know, still on the path to 100K by end of year.
Ryan, you want to say something?
El Salvador uses the US dollar as its national currency. Just go back to that for a second. They feel like the US dollar doesn't serve their citizens as well as Bitcoin. I don't understand why this isn't a bigger story, and why the price hasn't moved more. They're taking a country off the US dollar standard, and they're putting it on Bitcoin.
Let's talk about news and try to understand like how it impacts markets. If you're having a ripping bull market and you get bad news, many instances it doesn't affect price. And the same is true in the inverse. So you have a downtrend and the market is overwhelming with sellers, and you get a piece of good news and you don't see an effect. It's more about the overall trend than one piece of legislation. 6 million people is like half the size of the Chicago area. And the economy is just not as impactful as one that you would see in like a larger city in the US. So it depends a lot on when you get the news in the stage of a market cycle. I think if we would have gotten this news, say when we were peaking back at 60, 65K, then it could have bolstered price like $5,000. But we're just not in that kind of posture in the trend right now.
All right. Okay. Let's I know everybody wants it to be big news. It is big news. It definitely is, to have a country come out and finally say that. And Ryan is rightful to be aggravated that it's not being thrown out there more.
I'm not aggravated. I'm just surprised.
It's okay to be aggravated, Ryan.
No, I'm aggravated at a lot of things and a lot of people, but this isn't one of them. It's a country moving off the US dollar standard to Bitcoin, and I'm surprised if Liechtenstein did it, or however you say that country. I'm sorry, I'm terrible at pronouncing things.
That was good.
But what?
That was good. You did it.
If they went from whatever currency they use, the euro, I guess, to Bitcoin, that would be a huge story because it's in the developed world. I just feel like, I don't know. I'm just confused. That's all.
All right. Let's get to takeaways from the conference. Let's get to gossip. Let's get to people watching. It's what we do best. The four of us sitting in a corner. But let's talk about it. One, I want to say that we have no friends, Ryan and I, so we hang out next to the Market Rebellion booth all day at the conference. And hope to get their spill off, fame. But if you were there and you did go to their conference, first of all, CJ and Monty had to have been wearing really comfortable shoes. They put in their hours this week, meeting with hundreds and hundreds of people, as well as Mr. Wonderful came by the booth, and literally formed a crowd around that booth. It was crazy. Tell us what was going on. Monty, did you and CJ get like pushed out of there by a crowd, a swarm?
Yeah, pretty much. And we really had kind of no heads up that he was headed to our booth. So we were kind of standing there. And the worst part was, so our booth was right there. And then next to our booth was a luxury watch vendor, the Timepiece Gentleman. And if you know Kevin OLeary, he's a big watch guy. And these guys knew this. So all like the fans swarm into our booth. And I'm standing there trapped between our booth and the watch booth. These watch guys are swarming to Kevin OLeary. All the fans are coming down the main entrance. I literally could not move for a good 20 minutes while he stood there and did an interview with John. But yeah, that was some good press for our booth. And it was cool to see Mr. Wonderful. He checked out the watches. He tried on a $1 million watch. And
whoa.
It was exciting. Lots of cameras, lots of flashing lights. And, it was cool to see.
And if any of you live in a cave without internet and don't know who Mr. Wonderful is, Kevin OLeary is on Shark Tank on NBC, so which is always a fun show to watch.
Also the evil one.
Yeah, he is the evil one.
But in all seriousness,
Simon Cowell of Shark Tank.
The one thing I do want to say is that in real life, like, he is a really nice guy. He takes a lot of time to, meet with various people, give them pictures and autographs and etc. Some random guy comes up to him when he's trying to leave and is like, "Hey, you're my personal investment hero." And, like any other celebrity could have just walked away and be like, "I'm too busy, man." But Kevin OLeary actually stayed there, gave his time to this gentleman. So we're just grateful for everybody who came out. And
that's great.
Monty looks like he wants to say something.
Yeah, no, well, while we're speaking of men of the people, I had to mention Steve Ehrlich. Nick Mancini from Trade the Chain, he tweeted about it, I think on Saturday. Steve was on the floor of the conference the whole time, meeting with Voyager customers, meeting with people that watch this show, and, answering questions, addressing concerns, talking about VGX, talking about Voyager stock. There weren't too many CEOs that were on the floor of the conference doing that. And you could tell it went a long way with those people. So, Steve, thank you for everything you do over at Voyager. It definitely does not go unnoticed, and we all really appreciate it.
Yeah, 100%. You're absolutely correct, Monty. So Steve was in between all of us, and he literally was standing the whole time meeting people. Like he didn't have to do that at all. There's he could have done other stuff like yacht parties or hung out with Paris Hilton or something. I don't know. But he literally stood there all day long, taking pictures, meeting with people, discussing things about Voyager and stuff like that. So that was hugely impressive.
It was great, but even more impressive, Alex, was your greatest fan, right? So this older woman, little not as tall as Alex or myself, she comes up to me and says, "Hi Ryan, how are you?" "I'm good. You?" "Where's Alex?" And I turn around and point to Alex, who was like 10 feet away from me, and she's like, "Oh my God, it's Alex!" and running to him to say hi. It was the greatest thing I've ever seen. I wish we got it on video. It was spectacular. Alex, I can't remember her name though. I don't think she even told me her name.
I can't remember her name either. She was so cute and adorable. My God, I saw her screaming on her way over, and like it was amazing. She was totally cool. But yeah, we got to meet a lot of people. Like we said earlier, Daryl Lister, who's in the chats here, a couple others that we saw, and the same with Monty and CJ. I mean, just you guys are so fantastic and awesome. Thank you for coming up to us.
Yeah, it was awesome meeting you guys. It's crazy to think that, I've met you before, Alex, in person, but Ryan, I feel like I know you so well, but I've never met you in person until this weekend. It was pretty crazy to think, but nice to finally meet you. Definitely.
And let me ask you, Monty,
that's crazy.
Is his hair now? Obviously, I know I've hung out with all of you guys in person a handful of times. Ryan lives near me, and CJ's come visited me. But Monty, meeting Ryan for the first time, was his hair as good as we say it is, or what?
It's even better, I thought maybe he was applying some sort of filter through Zoom or something, but when you meet him in person, that hair is immaculate. So it's legit.
Back to the conference though, some of the takeaways, you always go to these conferences, or not everyone, but going to these conferences, often the organizers overpromise and underdeliver. You go, they say, "We've sold thousands and thousands of tickets." You go, "It's a ghost town." And you're just like, "Why am I here?" Right? I've gone to Europe for these things. I've gone to Asia for them. I've gone even out to LA, and they've been empty. Immediately, you could tell that this conference was going to be different.
They underpromised.
The line to get in at 7:30 in the morning, the first day of the conference last Friday, was astonishing. And you get in, and one of the main sessions, the one with Michael Saylor, they had to beat back thousands of people that were trying to get in, and they closed the main room. And the only reason that I was able to get in is because one of my clients was moderating the next panel. So I had to get in and do my job, right? So I go in, I walk backstage, and as I get backstage, Michael Saylor was walking off. I've never been in a green room that crowded in my life. Out of nowhere, like 100 people just rushed him like he was BTS or something. It was crazy. They were like taking pictures with him, and he's kind of looking around like, I'm not sure about this. Like he was confused about it. Like I think it's the first time he's been to a Bitcoin conference in person and seen some of these maniacs.
Well, you saw the guy who jumped on stage, remember? Did you see that clip?
I didn't see that. No, I heard about it.
Oh my gosh.
No, I heard about it.
Yeah, there's a guy who jumps on stage. Michael Saylor's, they're speaking, and he's wearing a suit that is like a basketball outfit where you just yank it and the whole suit comes off at once. And underneath is the Dogecoin dog. And he's yelling, "Bye, bye, bye, bye." I've never seen a guy get tackled so fast and sent off stage. Another one. Another interesting.
What about Laura Loomer getting kicked out?
Who?
What? Laura Loomer getting kicked out. Laura Loomer. She was heckling someone.
Yes,
because she
Steve.
Can't anymore.
No.
She's been banned.
Jack Dorsey. Wasn't she the one?
Right. So
Dorsey.
Yeah,
yeah. That's who it was. I couldn't remember. I mean, but other than that, I mean, the opportunity to get in front of people, meet people, make connections with so many people in this industry that I've talked to, like Monty, for over a year and never met in person. I mean, it was great to see Josh from the Ties. The first time I've seen him in a while, and just to see so many people and to meet Jesse from Strix Leviathan, it was great. And some of the panels were really good. They ran out of food at 2 p.m. on the first day. There was no food. Aside from that, it was a really well done event. Right, guys? I mean, Bitcoin Consensus 2018 really was the benchmark for a crypto conference. Everyone always looked back to that one and saying that was the craziest one. New York Blockchain Week was crazy. This surpassed that easily. Like, there were so many more people at this thing, probably like 10,000 people.
And then, there was Tone Vase came around to say hi to all of us. There was Charlie Shrem I was hanging out with.
John Najarian was there.
John Najarian was there. Pompliano was there. Peter McCormick was there. And I even got to see.
He was great. Yeah.
Charles H. from Cardano. But there was, there was a lot of cool dudes there.
Simon Yu.
Not me.
Simon Yu as well.
Oh, I thought you said me. I said I'm not cool. Simon. How could I forget about Simon? Simon Yu. Stormex.
I missed him. I just missed him. I walked away, and then 10 minutes later, I see you posting a picture on Twitter with him. I'm like, come on. So I never got to meet you, Simon.
Simon's great. Now we were hanging out at the club with our friend Crypto Benz and Donish. We had Fetty Wap.
Questlove performed.
Questlove.
It was great.
Yeah, a lot of cool performers. Really fun stuff. But what else did everybody hear? What any gossip? Any big exciting stuff in the pipelines for anybody? Oh, blockchain.com, which is majority owned by Roger Ver, I believe. Did you guys see that blockchain.com announced that they are relocating to Miami with the expectation of creating 300 jobs there?
So is eToro. They're relocating to Miami as well with the expectation of creating hundreds of jobs.
Okay, so I just want to tell everybody, Miami is a fun city, but it's a little bit like Las Vegas. You got to take it in small doses. And
3 days.
3 days is about the max for it. And although it looks cool in those Will Smith movies where he's a cop and stuff, Bad Boys, it is humid as heck, man. You take a shower and you step out of the shower and you're sweating rest of the day.
I couldn't wait to get back.
Different kind of hot.
I was on a jet ski for 1 hour yesterday. I got a sunburn. I've been in Puerto Rico for a month and a half and I haven't gotten any sunburn.
It's hotter. Crazy. It's hotter than Puerto Rico, strictly for the humidity you mentioned. So.
Yeah, I like the Caribbean not having any heat or any humidity. It feels good. So yeah, Miami's not. If you're thinking of jumping down there to move, think twice. You have to be a special kind of person. And yes, Joel, the traffic sucks.
Oh my God, the traffic. The last night after the conference, we had like a little team dinner and it was just, we're in Miami Beach. It was just maybe 15 minutes, maybe 20 blocks down south. I got an Uber. It took an hour to get there and it took like, an hour and a half to get back. So I thought it would just be like a nice quick dinner after the conference, get back, take a dip in the pool and go to bed. I didn't get home until like 12:30. So yeah the traffic is brutal.
Yeah, I think Saturday night was probably my favorite night, and I know it was Ryan's favorite night, Saturday night. Eating dinner at Mr. Chow next to Charlie Shrem, then heading down to South Beach for a little Questlove and Fetty Wap and stuff was cool. So I liked it.
Oh, you did hit Mr. Chow. Nice.
Oh yeah, first time at Mr. Chow. It's so
good.
So cool. Good. And let's talk about that Mayweather fight. The Mayweather, what's his name? Logan Paul? Or what's it? Who?
Do we have to talk about it? How does he not knock him down? Like, what was the point of that fight?
Nobody won.
Besides to make money.
Nobody won.
Floyd made $100+ million for 20 minutes of some BS boxing.
Really?
What?
112 million.
Wow, that's better than the Ethereum ICO.
Line of work. We're in the wrong line of work. Why aren't we boxing Floyd Mayweather? Like, he's not going to knock us down. He doesn't knock anyone down. He just defends us.
We should box each other or something. Like, do the Monty versus Alex fight, and
I love that.
We'd have to pay people to watch that.
We could open for the CJ Ryan round. I don't know. Monty would kick my butt, though. I know that.
I'd be terrified of CJ's reach. He's got too many inches on me. Like, I couldn't get a jab in.
The winner gets rewarded in cent token, or both participants do.
Oh boy!
Maybe we could do some type of promotional event. I don't know if folks would be interested. I mean, let us know.
What about Chad Ochocinco making $8 million or something like that for his fight last night? Guy made millions of dollars, Chad Johnson rather, the former NFL player, for boxing some guy for 8 minutes, and he knocked him out, a professional fighter. That was pretty cool.
Huh. Okay. Yeah, and that's really, there was nothing other than that that was too exciting, was there? So
It was good. I was ready to go home though. By Sunday, I had to go home. I left Miami early and sat in the airport for 3 hours. I was Miami'd out.
anybody else have some? I know a lot of projects launched down there. Grow Token, our boys Donish Chaudhry and Eric Benz launched the Grow House. That was their club party that they did it, and it's all about cannabis, weed. I don't know what the proper way to call it is, but I guess
Legalize marijuana.
If you're over 45, you have to call it pot.
Yeah. If you're my mother.
Guys, I'm 45. You're so messed up, Monty.
Alex.
You just keep throwing the jabs.
I forget how old you are, Alex. You have a youthful spirit.
Yeah, Alex is young at heart.
But yeah, I mean, that's pretty much it. We launched. We launched. There was a cent token one. That was something that happened. So we're excited about that.
It did. Yes.
Good.
Anything more you can give us on that, or just that you're excited?
I'm excited.
Trade the Chain's governance token. It's a community governance token that was made for the members of Trade the Chain.
I'm excited for it. I'm excited for the Cent token because it really came about. It's something that, we all think about and Rob believes in over Digital Asset News and all that stuff, where you believe in people, products, and community. And so we built in this great community at Trade the Chain. And we had interviewed and we've had on guests, all of us, some really great people like Steve Ehrlich and like Simon Yu and these others who have very similar types. And so it came to our mind about 6 months ago to start doing this project. And so really super excited about that, to have these benefits roll out for our members. But I will say, I know what Steve Ehrlich feels like at Voyager when we're trying to squeeze information out of him, because we have so much exciting announcements that are coming out over the course of June, and we can't say any of them. Until you can announce it. So it's now I know how Steve feels. It's frustrating as all heck. So
it is, but the roadmap is robust, Alex. People should keep that in mind. We have some great announcements coming. You can't announce things until you're ready, like Alex said. You just don't do that. You don't want to jump the gun. Super
hard work. I will say that. Super hard work to get to the Cent token to where we are. I'm super excited. And for people who keep asking, the contract is actually in the description. So, there it is, pinned at the Cent token Twitter handle as well.
Sleepy Puppy already bagged up.
Oh, Sleepy Puppy Crypto. Oh my gosh. He is number one, we have a lot of number one cheerleaders, but he's one of the number one cheerleaders. I see Alex Quintero asking in chats about STMX news. All I could say is that we were chatting with Simon, and Simon says there's a lot of things that, good stuff that's coming out for STMX, StormX, over the course of the next month and near future as well. And he hinted with a smile and wouldn't say anything more. So I'm looking forward to hearing what he has to say as well. Ryan, what about any inside news from any inside news that's you can publicly disclose about anything on your client side? Nah, still right.
No, sir.
We stink. We're gonna, we'll come back. We'll re-air the next episode when we can all talk.
Well, actually, CJ, you might hate me for doing this, but I think CJ has a really interesting outlook on ETH. You want to wrap up with that? Because we did spend a lot of time kind of talking about the conference and bragging about our wonderful weekend. Maybe we should give the people some actual information and some technicals here. What do you say, CJ?
Oh yeah, nothing would please me more, Monty. That doesn't bum me out whatsoever. The thing that I like about ETH is that, when compared to Bitcoin, obviously Bitcoin is it's kind of in this box kind of trend channel, but it's making slight higher lows. The thing that I really like about ETH, and what I'll highlight on the ETH chart here, is the ascending triangle. The fact that we continue to make higher lows that are very evident, like one here, and possibly a third. So in theory, when you test this level, oops, let me get one bit more accurate. When we test that resistance level multiple times, the more you test that level, in theory, the weaker it becomes. And so it's just a nice formation. It's very promising. Earlier today, we peaked our head above that 20 smooth moving average, which has acted as resistance all throughout the downtrend. So we'll see if we can get above that and actually close with some strong bullish volume. If we do, then I think we have a pretty clear road to 3,500 before, some possible back test. So ETH is still
Joe Weisenthal in Bloomberg wrote a great article today about how people look at crypto and crypto assets, cryptocurrencies, as one big monolith, with Bitcoin being the only asset that matters. He went into DeFi, he went into Ethereum. He touched on a lot of the themes that, we and other YouTubers and I guess influencers, I'm not an influencer, but other, influencers talk about how, the real opportunity really isn't in Bitcoin anymore. It's in Ethereum, it's in DeFi, it's in all of these altcoins that have real value. Look at Solana announcing they're going to raise $450 million to take on Ethereum, right? So it's the mainstream media and the investing world by extension, if Joe Weisenthal is writing about it, given his background, they're starting to wake up to the opportunities and the value in DeFi assets and swap exchanges. He had a screenshot of Uniswap on his article. And, I think that portends very well and very positively going forward for assets that aren't Bitcoin. And Ethereum would stand to benefit the most from that.
You bring up a good point there, Ryan. But what's interesting is, did you, first of all, I used to be like that. I used to have that Bitcoin semi-maxi mindset years ago. And that has changed to a vibrant, open-minded market space mind now. But did you see, I believe it was Saturday, that Aave earned more in fees than Bitcoin did for the first time ever in transaction fees?
Yeah, that's
In a single day
news.
or in a period of time?
In one single day. In one single day, Aave,
Wow,
for the first time ever, earned more in fees than Bitcoin.
Yeah, so go ahead.
I just wanted to quickly mention this while we're talking about fees. The alts have really been cooling off since Bitcoin's been coming down from 64K and ETH's been, cooling back off a little bit. But that was necessary to happen, right? We talked a lot about the gas fees and how they were crippling some DeFi assets. Well, now those fees are back down again. So whenever I see that happening, that for me is indicative of the fact that the alts are, ready to move again. People haven't been touching the alts so much. They've been cooling off a lot. And now that, fees are back in a reasonable range, they return to that mid 2020 level, I think people can start speculating on the alts again, like we saw, in DeFi summer, or even more recently at the beginning of this year when we saw a lot of those alts go parabolic. So now that the fees are back down, I'm going to start, looking downstream, accumulating some alts just to be ready for the next takeoff, because I do think it's coming soon.
I just want to play, I'm not a Bitcoin maximalist, but I want to play devil's advocate to this point, because regardless of whether Aave, processes more in fees than Bitcoin, it doesn't matter. If Bitcoin goes to 26K or 25K, Aave is going down another 30%. It's just the nature of the structure of this market. You can philosophize about DeFi and how it's, different, or I agree, there's more upside potential. That's just because Bitcoin has so much capital in it already. So it's going to require much more capital to be uplifted. But when it sells off, altcoins are just high beta assets. They're going to fall even harder. I mean, look at things like Luna. Look at things like BNB. These are projects that are going to be around with utility. But when Bitcoin falls, it scares all the other alts, and it doesn't matter.
I agree with you 100% that's the case. But it's still it's an endless search for yield, and that's what keeps that machine going, and it's going to continue
also,
that way.
I'm not in an unbanked, underbanked, or underdeveloped country. I'm not in an El Salvador. I'm not in crypto assets to invest in Bitcoin and store value. I don't need to do that. I have the US dollar at my disposal. I'm in digital assets for that high beta, for those altcoins, for that opportunity. It's high risk, but it's also high reward. I don't need to store value. I want to earn appreciation on my assets. I want staking rewards. I want yield. I want all of that, like Alex is saying. So I think, and hedge funds are increasingly agreeing that sure, Bitcoin will sell off, it'll bring down altcoins, but when Bitcoin rebounds, altcoins rebound exponentially higher as well.
That is correct. So, all right, folks. Thank you for joining us for our banter. First day back on the island and on the mainland. So we'll see where it goes. But until next time, and you know, something I saw a lot of chatter in there about different projects and stuff. The more the market keeps doing, having this sideways range bound action, and that's something that we're going to address in about a week's time, mid-month, because that's going to be the time where I either adjust or confirm what I felt when we gave predictions earlier for the end of the year. But, you know, Monty and CJ have had both good comments on that as far as where the market could go, whether it's going to be sideways until August sometime before taking the second leg up. But the more, as it does go sideways, the more we're going to start going back and covering some of these coins, because we don't want to keep speaking about the same stuff every day if the market doesn't change. So we'll hit some of those projects. As always, throw some legit ones into the comments and we'll take a look. Until then, we'll see you tomorrow, folks. Thank you so very much for watching, and loved meeting all of you guys who showed up for the conference.
Thank you, everyone. Great to meet you.